Just got somebody good at time.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone. This is the time and place for the Grand Forks Jobs Development Authority. Welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. We'll begin with roll call, please.
Michael.
Here.
Okay, here. Weber.
Here.
Muncy. Here. Bonnie.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Mayor Vicincy.
Here.
Very good. Thank you. Item 2.1, True Weather Solutions Conversion Option. Ms. Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. We just have one item this evening. As your staff report outlines, last September, the JDA approved a $100,000 accelerate loan to True Weather Solutions. We recently received the notice that's attached to that staff report that they are entering into a Series A preferred stock offering. Under the terms of our accelerate loan, that gives the JDA the option to convert its loan into equity. This was discussed at Growth Fund Committee last week, and the recommendation is to not exercise that option to convert. And some discussions with the CFO from True Weather led us to believe that assuming we do not convert, they would use some of that stock offering proceeds to just repay the loan. So that is a recommendation out of staff. Certainly stand for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Open a public hearing on item 2.1. Does anyone wish to speak to item 2.1? Hearing no one, will close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from Ms. Richards? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Approval of staff report.
Motion, President Sandy, second from Representative Bean. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn. So motion for Mr. Weigel, Ms. second from Ms. Osowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Moving along, we'll call to order the Grand Forks City Council meeting for Monday, March 6th, 2023. Roll call, please, Marie.
Michael. Here. Osowski. Here. Weber.
Here.
Muncy. Here. Bonnie.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Weber.
Thank you. Item 1.2, we got the Grand Forks, the robotics team for Grand Forks, team 8188, which took second place last year at the region as part of their alliance. So we're hoping for another strong finish this year, but come on up, guys, and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You get the robot to do it, it'll be even more impressive.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You guys want to just talk, maybe give us a quick update on what you guys got going on this weekend and the two regionals that you guys are going to be in this year, where they're at.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Nathan Moe. I'm the head coach for the robotics team. The competition this year, we will be doing our first regional at the Alaris Center here in Grand Forks, starting this Wednesday and Thursday. Then we have another regional out in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a week and a half later. We are part of what's called the First Robotics Competition. This competition is actually an international competition with thousands of teams across the country and the world. At the local regional, there's about 50 to 60 teams that will be competing from different parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, and other areas of the country. The game is played with robots that you make yourself as a team. Each match is played 3 robots against 3 robots with randomly assigned alliances. As Mayor Vicinski had mentioned at last year's regional, after the initial qualification matches, we were able to be selected on the 7th seed alliance and were able to win against all of our opponents up until the final match, placing second overall out of the 50 to 60 teams there. A little background on the competition. Each year, it's a brand new game, brand new robot we build completely from scratch. The robot you see here is what's going to be playing this year's game after we make a couple final modifications in the next couple days. Everything is built, programmed, designed by the students, and then the robot itself is driven at competition by the students, ranging from anywhere from senior in high school sometimes as far down as 7th or 8th graders in middle school, depending on their desire to participate. Each year, the game is revealed to us on the first Saturday in January, and from that point on, we have about 6 to 8 weeks to completely build a new robot, design it, make it work for the competition that year, and then be ready to compete each year. Typically around mid-March is when it usually falls. These are some of the students that are on the team this year. I'm gonna turn things over to them to kind of just talk about their experiences so far and what this program has done for them.
Yeah, this program has really helped me in my life. There's a lot of problem solving that goes into it. Just this robot alone, there's a lot of different design changes we've had to make for the past 6 or 8 weeks. And there might even be a few more over the next couple weeks. And it's also helped with my teamwork and cooperation with other people. Can't just be what I think it should be. It should be what everyone thinks it should be. So
Yeah. I work on a robot. I do all the mechanical stuff, and same with him. We both do a bunch of mechanical stuff and design it, which is a lot of stuff. We learn a lot about problem solving, learning with others, and events like this, talking in front of other people. It's not just robotics. It's a lot more than just building a robot.
It's also a lot of learning new things. First when I started, I didn't know how to use tools, saw stuff like that. It's a good way to learn. It's not just about building robots, but learning skills you can use later in life.
I do the programming and electronics on the robot, and there's a lot of really interesting, really useful things that I've had to learn, like just even how to make this hunk of metal do something.
You guys just, you guys just go through, tell us your names and what grade you guys are in and what school you go to.
Sure. My name is Dimitri Kolotka, and I go to Red River High School. I'm a junior.
I am Colin Hancock. I am a senior and I go to Thompson Public School.
I'm Jack Collin. I work down some public school as well. I'm a junior.
I'm Zane Schumacher. I go to Thompson School and I'm a junior also.
Okay, well, best of luck to you. And if everyone wants to give them a round of applause for Grant Forest. Oh, yeah, do you guys have any, like, maybe this would be a good chance to have a website or any place, maybe somebody wants to, donate some money to help the team be a little better funded? with
Yeah, so we do have a website, Grand Force 8188 at
.com.
.com.
Yeah.
And if you just search up FRC 8188 Grand Force, it should be the first option to show up. And I can send an email with the link as well in case you want to give the physical link to anyone.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank
Best of
you.
luck. All right, item 1.3, mayor's announcements. We had record participation at Grand Forest Day in Bismarck. We had 66 participants and really great meetings with all the state departments, topped off with the meeting with the Lieutenant Governor. So just wanted to thank the chamber and a special thanks to John Bernstrom for all the work he did to set that up in the back room like he is always, but thanks for your work, John. We've got a new hire that's in the crowd today. So if Miss Tess Mueller could stand up, and she had COVID last time, so she wasn't able to make it during her time, but she's all better. She's feeling better now. Anyways, there's Tess, so welcome aboard. And lastly, I just want to give a congratulations to the Special Olympics. They had a successful event on Saturday, the polar plunge. I didn't participate because I'm not great with cold water, but Dana, were you there? No. But they raised a lot of money. It was a great event, so congratulations to them. That's all we got for mayor's announcements. So we'll move on to 2 citizen comments. Oh, you ready, Sherry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got one. 6 comments tonight. So first one in the basket was Dennis Catholic.
Mr. Cadillac,
No, I don't have a speaker.
Mr.
Sorry.
Cadillac, there he is.
Oh, thank you for letting me speak. You know, it's really a shame what's gone on here in this city. You know, you people have made a lot of mistakes and I've never heard anybody apologize for one. You guys have ruthlessly wasted the taxpayers' money. I've seen no regret or regard for that. People have spoken to you over the last year, you refused to listen. And if you did listen, you refused to do anything. You know, people told you from the get-go what the CCP was. Did you bother to listen? No. Did you bother to do anything on it? No. Numerous times you said if somebody would show you something, you'd cease and desist. You did not. And you were told by many, many people, you know, they even brought a map in here. I mean, people done everything for you, but you people refuse to listen. You people refuse to even act now. You know, you've made some mistakes, go back and correct them. You're given the opportunity, you're unwilling to. And you know, why do you think this time has passed and nothing's come down yet? And yet you pushed it, so when it comes down, it's gonna be way worse than it would have been in the beginning. And Mr. Sandy, you know, you should just walk away from this like I told you the first time I met you. You know, you asked me what you could do to please me, I told you resign. You know, you humiliated yourself. You've humiliated the organizations you work with. And you know, if you really care about those, you should probably remove yourself so you don't harm them any more than they are. Because as I let you know immediately when I was allowed to, that the aerospace program at the UND is being investigated now. And there's other investigations that are still ongoing. But your guys aren't going to take my word for it because you don't take nobody's word for nothing. And you got an attorney that hires an attorney every time something is done. You know, Mr. Weber wants to give the monies away. You know, we had the bean crushing plant come in and say, we don't meet the specs in Minnesota, so we're coming over to North Dakota. They already committed to coming over here. What does Weber do? We got any money in a pilot program we can give them? You know, get him fattened up, put a red suit on him, maybe you can pass for Santa Claus. Otherwise, he's not worth a lot sitting here. You know, we need counsel people, and part of that counsel is to counsel, to reconcile, to get things done right. And I've seen some people try and they get shot down just for saying what they feel. And it's really, really tough to sit and have people like this controlling and running our city and watching our tax money dumped down the drain like it has been. I would love one of you people to take and figure out how much money has been wasted in the last year, you know? And I can go into specifics if you like, but it's gonna take me a lot longer than 5 minutes. You know, there's the forgiveness you gave at RRB, and you guys changed the number, name that to RRB because you didn't want to hear about it anymore, Red River Bio. Now, the mayor told me that was in his puppy, but you know, the rest of you around for that, but it's his puppy now, isn't it? You're in control now, you know? Why is that plant sitting here? How much tax base are we getting off that plant? Why every time somebody wants to come into this area, the first thing we want to do is give them money? You know, why don't we get some money first? And you know what you do is you destroy some of the other businesses that have been here giving you money for years. Have some respect for people. Have some respect for the business people. You know, you're supposed to be working for them, not for yourselves. And all I've seen is it's all pretty much self-indulgence with what goes on with you people. And it's been ongoing. And, you know, I didn't have a reason to come here before a year ago, a little over a year ago, but it still continues. It's just like with my sidewalk. I reported that thing December 9th. Part of it finally got cleaned here about a week ago. There's still another part of it that's still not clean. I even got maps here. I handed them out before and the mayor gave me heck because I wasn't supposed to approach the bench. How do you get through to you people? You know, if not approaching the bench. I've sent these in emails. I delivered them here, just like I did a couple of books that could have helped you, the Bible. But you guys certainly didn't open it because you don't understand the first thing. You know, there's been other things. Fine.
Mr. Callaway.
One more thing you said.
Jason Patrick.
Well, I guess
Mr.
I have
Patrick, please.
no microphone to adjust. People can't hear me in the back, so I apologize. So I wanted to just say a quick couple of things on some of the things that were said at the previous meeting and expressed. Councilmember Bean has at least on 2 occasions brought up the desire to hold an after-action review of this whole process. Support has been expressed by Councilwoman Osowski on this matter as well. Other council members have expressed concern about discussing these issues with the PNA project and discussing them in a public forum. As someone who has spent a big chunk of my professional career having to do regular after-action reviews in the field and in Garrison, I can say that it's actually imperative that it's done, and it's imperative that the information gets out there, and it isn't done necessarily behind closed doors. It's imperative that transparency in this is maintained. This serves not only to help restore trust and confidence with the electorate, that's the people who voted y'all into office, just in case somebody wasn't sure of the definition. And it's also imperative that the process be documented and recorded to ensure that a thorough record of those lessons learned is available for those who come after you. Those who do not learn from the lessons of the past are destined or doomed, depending on how you want to look at it, to repeat it. So I understand there may be some concerns. I would highly recommend, for whatever it's worth, as you guys go through an after action on this, as you discuss the pitfalls and the successes, take those lessons learned, make sure you do it in a public format, make sure that it is available to everyone, because you will not all be here on this dais forever. And I don't say that as some sort of doom and gloom kind of thing. I say that as just natural progression of time and popularity. You don't want the people who follow after you to make the same failures that you make. You want them to build upon the successes. So please don't do it behind closed doors, and make sure all of it's recorded down to the last minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Ally Spicer.
Ms. Spicer, please.
Good evening. Brandon, 2 weeks ago, you said you weren't sure about visas for the people that came over here. I just wanted to read a little bit of an email. This was sent from you to Jace Beller, I believe it is, Bertram's Chief of Staff. It says, Jace, I know you are especially busy these days. I've CC'd Lieutenant Colonel Sanford as well. Fufang Group has requested an invitation letter from the governor to get the business visas for purposes of traveling to North Dakota. Hopefully this is a great sign and they will finalize the deal and begin early phase of construction. The last letter the governor sent was highly effective and showed our great collaborative efforts. I attached the form for the new letter and also attached the previous letter that was sent back in October. Let me know if this is possible again. It would be greatly appreciated. Respectfully, Brandon Baczynski, Mayor of Grand Forks. I also have a letter here from Governor Burgum, who told us numerous times that this was a local issue and he wasn't going to get involved. This was also sent July 27th, 2021 to the U.S. Consulate General in Beijing. Dear officer, we are writing to request your cooperation in granting business visitor visas to the following individuals from the headquarters of Fufang Group Limited, so that they can visit Grand Forks, North Dakota as soon as possible to handle the business within the state. And there are 6 individuals listed below that with their passport numbers. Fufang Group is a Hong Kong listed company who focuses on biofermentation products. Fufang intends to set up their business in the US. A significant amount of investment and considerable number of new jobs are expected to be created by Fufang's potential development plan. 3 representatives from Fufang's side had visited North Dakota a few times during the past months and had fruitful meetings with the Grand Forks government. Furthermore, it would be very helpful if above team could travel to Grand Forks to accelerate that project you said was not accelerated. The costs and expenses for above trip will be borne by Fufang Group. Our local leaders look forward to hosting these representatives in the state of North Dakota. Regards, Doug Burgum, Governor. So again, did you not know anything about those visas, or are you just gonna lie again?
I don't know what kind of visas they got. Again, the immigration is done by the federal government.
So immigration to Burgum,
The city of the state doesn't provide visas, the federal government does,
so then why did you ask for them?
so that people could come over here.
Okay, that's weird, but you knew nothing about that.
I don't know what type of visas they were given.
Oh, business visas again.
The federal government wasn't.
Yeah, you lie constantly.
Thank you, Ms. Spicer.
Sean Beauclair,
Good evening, Mayor
Mr. Blair.
Brzezinski, council members. Quick question. Is there any speakers present?
there's microphones.
Well, those are it's very difficult to hear. So, again, this is just, it might be a minor thing to you, but it's a major thing. You got 80 people back there that can't hear. So I will yell, right, so people can hear. This evening, I'd like to speak to about the development agreement, and why it's such a failure. To me, it's like, you say it works. To me, it's kind of like saying the lifeboats worked on the Titanic. Right? You guys have a lot of liability, and let me tell you why. I have 20+ years of board experience. I invested over 6 different ag projects, over $1 billion, right? Combined $1 billion. So when you start a project, you look for the showstoppers. It's the #1 thing you do. Right? In other words, you're building a corn wet mill, you don't have the water, you don't have the permits, you don't have the corn, you don't have a project. What key thing did you miss in this project? National security clearance. It existed from day one. Had you had an attorney that was confident in the matter, the first time I spoke, I said, it's not a core competency. He would have said, you need to check with CPs. Why? Because my opinion on national security doesn't matter. None of yours does. Do you know why? Are you familiar with the acronym RAP? Responsibility, authority, and power. Responsibility, authority, and power. Mr. Weigel, you could clearly understand this. As a police officer, if somebody parks in a handicap sign, right, the officer has the responsibility, the authority, and the power to issue a ticket. So when you come to this, right, CFIUS, United States Air Force, they have a national security team to do what? Protect the Air Force Base. You guys do not engage them from day one. So where does that leave you today? You've got a bunch of business owners and a township that should have never been forced into annexation. Am I missing something here? Because if you're to do it all over again, where would your first stop be? It better be with CFIUS, right? So you engage a company from China, our #1 adversary, right? What does that tell you? #2, Fufeng, you did a simple search. What did we learn about it? The CEO used to be what? Remember the Chinese Communist Party? That's a big red flag. Another thing that's a huge red flag. Are you familiar with Uyghurs? You are, Mr. Sandy, right? You and I share that. I don't want to do business with a company that forces people to work for them. Do you know what happens in the Uyghur forced labor camp? There's over 1 million Uyghurs in China. The women are abused, the rape, people die. That's the sort of company you want to do business with? That should have been a huge red flag from the word go. So here you sit today, you should, again, you're talking to somebody who has 20 years of board experience. Your city attorney is a contractor, third party, he's got exposure. Why? Because he said he knew what he was doing. Clearly he didn't. You need to disconnect to him. I talked to a law firm about this. Bring in another law firm to handle all matters Fufeng, because you have liability. My understanding, you got what, $3+ million of bills out there. You don't know whether you're going to get paid or not. Fufeng's potentially going to bring a lawsuit against you. If you had proper legal counsel, none of these things would occur. I'm available anytime to talk to you. I've been over here 14 times, 12 plus months. I stated my experience. I'm here to try to help you. You ever see this? Read between the lines. I'm trying to give you the thumbs up. I'm here to help you. What do you think? When you guys wave back at me, what finger do you think you're using? You never once engaged me to try to help you. This could have been stopped from day one if you would have chose to listen to somebody who had an opposite opinion of yours, based on sound facts, sound science. Right, so here you sit today, like I said, I'd be an awful torqued off property owner, awful torqued off township, because this never should occur. It should have never left somebody's desk if you had did the right thing at the right time. With that, have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mr. McBride.
Jody Carlson.
This is my note for tonight, so if you don't mind, Keith one. If you don't mind that I could ask him a couple questions just to clarify. Thank you for your response to my question on the funding for the EDC. I was going to ask, and I figure you're the best one to answer, the difference between sponsors and members. Can you answer? I mean, are they the same?
I don't know what a sponsor means for the EDC.
Okay, so it's just membership that you have? Okay, but there's no cost to that membership?
They invest in the EDC. I don't understand that question.
Like if I want to be a member of the EDC, do I have to pay money to be a member?
Yes.
Okay, and does that money then go into the foundation? Or
the corporation?
so where does the money from the foundation come from?
It had been there for years. It was established in 1967 and it was primarily capitalized through land sales. And it had been largely dormant for more than a decade, probably closer to 20 years.
Okay, it seemed that that was fairly stagnant. But it said that there was rentals on there.
Almost 48 acres of land in and around the beach max that is leased to a farmer, a farmer.
Okay, okay. I had a couple other questions, but I'll just wait and visit with you later. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson.
And last speaker, I have Craig Spicer.
Okay, Spicer, please.
Good evening. I'm usually pretty good at speaking loud, so I'll direct this right away. So as we start these meetings, every time we start these meetings, I learn something. Last time we started the meetings, we had the vets here. And I kind of related to how this subject matter was contained or connected to the vets. And I was truly disappointed that we would throw our vets under the bus and bring in a communist country, a plant that we just kept saying over and over again, it's a good thing, which we knew we were being lied to. Okay, so that is a slap in the face to our vets. So I'm just going back to that for a minute. Now tonight, and I'm glad you start these meetings like this, we have a bunch of young kids here and they're telling us things that we should know. And two of those things that they told us was that you learn problem solving. Maybe we should have those kids come back and explain what problem solving is to this city council and this mayor. Because through this whole project, you haven't learned a thing. You don't know how to solve any problem. You've never been in business for yourself. You don't know what it is to get up every morning and grind it out and hope that your business stays in business because of the hardships that the city's probably going to impose on you. Okay. And the next thing is working with others. Wow. You worked with this group of people that you threw down and humiliated and insulted and embarrassed. And you tried to use every trick you could in the book to do it. There's a few things out there that a lot of people know that are in the background with this thing that when I tell them, their mouths dropped. They dropped, they literally dropped because of the way you treated these people. What is going to happen to you people before you learn that we're not against you? We want to work together. You insulted us and you set the bar up so that you made us look like fools so that you could produce this product no matter what happened. You insulted everybody in this city by the way you handled this. You should have went to the authorities. You guys, you talked about due diligence and transparency. Those words they mean nothing to me and to you, apparently through this whole process. It's an insult. You do not represent the people of this city. That's what it comes down to. Now, here we are, and Sean alluded to it. We set ourselves up for a lawsuit from a communist country. What, are we living in an imaginary a picture of some kind, or imaginary dream, that we have to defend ourselves against a lawsuit from communist China? What does it matter with what we've done here? How do we get through to you people? Am I talking loud enough? Mayor, am I good enough for you? Thank you. Okay, back to our attorney. One time I would like to see Mr. Gossett step up and say, if there's anything you people need, come and see me off when we're done. Let me see if there's something I can do. And instead it was foo fang, foo fang, foo fang. Petition, shut the petition down. Don't work with don't one time come out and visit with somebody on Club 81 or the 81 intersection. No, that's way too far out of reach. I don't understand how we can clear this up. We surely know that we were manipulated and we were forced into this annexation because of foo fang. All the facts are out there. Okay, we're not going to be annexed. I can tell you that right now. One way or another, we will not be annexed under your rule, because they have forced labor in China, but we are not going to have forced city councilmen tell us what to do when we don't accept what they tell us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spicer. That's it. All right. 3 awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations.
2.1, we have a presentation from Gate City Bank and the City of Grand Forks Home Improvement Partnership.
Mr. Conlon, please.
All right, happy to be here. We got some great news for you here with a couple folks from Gate City Bank, Becky Mindeman, Brittany Quinton, Katie Graham, and Vicki Geller. We worked with Gate City Bank over the past, this will be our 4th year now, for the Gate City Bank Home Improvement Partnership Program. Boiling it down to simplest terms, it's a program essentially designed to provide a source of funds for Grand Forks homeowners, qualifying Grand Forks homeowners and projects, to make an extremely wide variety of home improvements to their properties at, which is key, extremely affordable interest rate. There's a variety of qualifying criteria, including this year we moved the qualifying assessed value of a home to be $275,000 or less, which is meets quite a few homes in town. So it's quite accessible. Also, we check to make sure things are zoned appropriately, their current rent taxes, all that good stuff. And obviously there's credit related criteria on the Gate City side of things, but rates for this for the program year this year are said to be range from 3% to 3.5%, which I'm told is as of today anyway, about half or less than half of the going rate. So an extremely good value that we're very thankful for Gate City for working with us on. And we're really hopeful that folks will take advantage of, obviously, in this coming year. The program window looks to be from about in April through the end of October. So more information will be available on the city website as well as Gate Cities to kind of give folks an idea as to how to apply for this sort of thing. Funded, like I said, a wide array of projects, everything from HVAC replacements, window repairs, interior, exterior repairs, roofs, additions. It's a really wide array of things that qualify for this. So a really exciting thing. And again, that 3 to 3.5% is exceptionally affordable. So really excited to launch this program again this year with Gate City Bank. Hopefully a lot of folks will take advantage of it. And I'll just kick it over to Becky and her team to say a few words, and then maybe we'll have a big check to present to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you all for having us this evening. We're very excited to be here. I am Becky Mindeman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Retail Banking for Gate City Banking here in Grand Forks. And as Andy stated, I have Vicky, Katie, and Brittany. With me, they are our lenders at our Grand Forks locations who will be working with the program with our community members in Grand Forks who come to Gate City Bank for this. Put that. Let's sit down. So a cornerstone of our mission is to serve our customers and communities by creating a better way of life. The home improvement partnership that we have with the city really does that. It's a series of programs designed to work together to improve neighborhood quality of life and encourage investment in the city's existing neighborhoods. Since 2005, Gate City Bank is proud to have been involved in this program throughout various communities in North Dakota and into central Minnesota. The Home Improvement Partnership was established for local homeowners to encourage preservation of homes and add to the long-term value and life of property and neighborhood in our community. We are incredibly thankful for this opportunity to partner with the city once again this year and are excited to see what happens with this year. We get to help create a better way of life for friends and neighborhoods, friends and neighbors in Grand Forks, and it actually starts March 15th. I think it said April. So we go March 15th to the end of October. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Thank you. How did it do last year? Were you able to fill the full amount from last year?
No, so we would love to use every penny of it this year. Absolutely. Yeah,
It's good.
it's a great rate. So,
Well, especially rates where they're at today, so.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, all right.
Folks, just give you a call and ask whether they sign up.
Yeah.
Starts.
Yeah,
starts
well,
at the
I'll
end.
post some more info on the city website when it goes live, March 15th. And we'll have more information on there. People can reach out to me with any questions. Application will be available on there. Happy to walk anybody through and yeah, take advantage of this awesome opportunity.
So city approves the projects and we approve the financing. That's all. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. That's great. Yeah.
Ever since I saw the movie Happy Gilmore, I was like, picture of it.
Say,
Sorry about that on the slide.
okay.
All right. Got us all. Which camera is this? John, we got you first. Okay, now, Andy. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on, we're going to the presentation with the Wildlife Services Mitigation and Research Efforts.
Good evening, Mayor Boczynski, members of the City Council. Tonight I have with me Dorothy Dalton. She's with the USDA Wildlife Services, and she has been working with us on the mitigation at the wastewater treatment plant. So she's going to highlight where we're at and then share some information about the research that she's doing.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here tonight. I'll try to project to the rest of the room, but I'm here tonight to give you guys an update on my field season last year, as well as discuss some ongoing research efforts we have going on out at the wastewater treatment plant. So with that, we can go ahead and next slide. So as a reminder, the overall objective of my position is to promote aviation safety at Grand Forks International Airport by mitigating the risk of wildlife airstrikes through an integrated wildlife damage management strategy out at the Grand Forks wastewater treatment plant and adjacent properties. And in doing so, I also lend direct control and technical assistance to the Grand Forks Police Department and landowners throughout Grand Forks. I started graduate school last January at the University of North Dakota in pursuit of my master's of science in biology. So doing my graduate research has been a huge part of my responsibilities last year and then continuing into this year, as well as helping the city oversee a collaborative undergraduate wildlife damage management internship program out at the wastewater treatment plant. Doing some opportunistic disease monitoring and pigeon trapping over the winter. Next slide. So an overview of the Grand Forks wastewater treatment plant. I utilize what's called an integrated wildlife damage management strategy, which consists of primarily non-lethal auditory and visual harassment with intermittent lethal removal with a firearm to prevent habituation to the non-lethal tools and maintain their effectiveness. As well, last year I had 2 undergraduate interns hired by the city working with me on my project for the entire field season, so April through November. So I got to help them with some career development and gaining job experience with wildlife mitigation. as well as collecting data from my thesis was a huge part of our field season last year, which I'll expand on here in a few slides. So the major takeaways for the wastewater treatment plant last year, we observed about 1.1 million birds, most of which were a combination of waterfowl, gulls, and large fish-eating species like pelicans. So this graph is depicting the monthly totals for each month of the field season last year at the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the overall annual trend line. If you guys remember, we had a blizzard last April that seriously delayed the onset of spring, so we couldn't quite capture spring migration out of the wastewater treatment plant like we usually do, but the birds more than made up for it for fall migration, and everything started coming back in a really intense fashion in July and really ramped up for fall migration, with bird numbers peaking in October and the field season being over by mid-November. So successful wildlife airstrike mitigation has to extend beyond airfield boundaries, which is where Wildlife Services and the Grand Forks wastewater treatment plant comes into play. But including the wastewater treatment plant, I also mitigate the risk of wildlife airstrikes on properties adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant and to the airport, utilizing, again, an integrated wildlife damage management strategy and lending assistance to cooperators and landowners in pigeon trapping at these properties over the winter. So when we look at the strike data last year for GFK, Grand Forks International Airport submitted a total of 25 reported wildlife interactions with aircraft last year to the Federal Aviation Administration, 15 of which were airstrikes, 8 of which were evasive maneuvers, which means there was a negative effect on flight that wasn't an airstrike, like an aborted landing or a go-around, and then 2 carcasses found on or near the runway. When we organize this further into species that I have the ability to manage for at the wastewater treatment plant, i.e. target species were involved in 0 out of 15 airstrikes last year, 3 out of 8 evasive maneuvers, and only 2 discovered carcasses found on or near the runway. So taking this a step further and comparing my last 2 years of field data against each other, as a reminder, the fall of 2021 was the first time that GFK started consistently reporting evasive maneuvers to the FAA as airstrikes, which is why we see a huge increase in the annual total for 2021. But when we look at the 2021 target species interactions, we see that they were involved in 3 airstrikes, 16 evasive maneuvers, and 0 carcasses. However, comparing that to last year, we were able to bring that down to 0 airstrikes involving a target species, 3 evasive maneuvers, and 2 carcasses. So moving into some research projects that we have going on out at the wastewater treatment plant. So last summer, we did a round of exploratory fish trapping. Myself and the 2 interns that were working with me had seen fish in the ponds, but anecdotal observations are not enough to base science off of. So we wanted to know definitively whether or not there were fish at the wastewater treatment plant. So we trapped every cell except primary cell 2, and we found that the wastewater treatment plant has an abundance of fathead minnows, which are super tiny little fish that are definitely acting as a major food source for the fish-eating birds out of the wastewater treatment plant. And then moving into my thesis, so like I said, I started graduate school last January, so I'm in my 3rd semester of my master's degree. My thesis is an overall evaluation of the effectiveness of USDA Wildlife Services management efforts at the Grand Forks Wastewater Treatment Plant on reported wildlife airstrikes at Grand Forks International Airport. So I have 3 objectives that I'll be delivering on. The first of which is an assessment to see if Wildlife Services has actually made an impact on airstrikes at Grand Forks International Airport. The second of which was a determination of the effectiveness of specific management tools that I use frequently during my job activities. And the third of which was an evaluation of an automated radio telemetry system to help us answer questions like, do birds actually leave the wastewater treatment plant following harassment? Where they go if they do leave, and how long does it take them to come back? So to expand on these objectives, so again, objective 1 is the analysis of the National Wildlife Strike Database. So for this objective, I have to first begin by defining what a relevant bird strike is in this context. And for my purposes, a relevant bird strike involves a target species that I can manage for at the wastewater treatment plant. It must have occurred within a 5-mile radius from GFK or below 500 feet above ground level, as prior studies have determined this is where the majority of airstrikes occur. And it must have occurred within the past 10 years. So once we have these parameters set, then we'll start to move into analysis, splitting up the past 10 years of strike data into 5 years before Wildlife Services began mitigating at the wastewater treatment plant to the 5 years after Wildlife Services has been conducting mitigation activities at the wastewater treatment plant. to determine the changes in the overall occurrences of bird strikes at GFK, but paying particular attention to the relevant bird strikes. So objective 2 is the evaluation of harassment tools. We specifically wanted to determine the effectiveness of propane cannons, lethal and non-lethal use of firearms, pyrotechnics, which are a class of 1.4 explosives, and a combination of these 3 tools, plus a drone contractor that was hired by the city last year for mitigation purposes. And to determine which of these 4 experimental groups was the most effective, we measured the change in daily and day-to-day bird change out of the wastewater treatment plant to determine which was the most successful at reducing the quantity of target species at the wastewater treatment plant. And so objective 3 is the bird movement objective. Like I said, we deployed an automated radio telemetry network produced by Cellular Tracking Technologies, or CTT. Currently, there are 8 sensor stations and 89 nodes across Grand Forks. Prior to my thesis, there was an existing network of this telemetry system at the Grand Forks Air Force Base, but my project allowed us to deploy an additional 2 sensor stations and 18 nodes at the wastewater treatment plant, and 1 additional sensor station at Kelly Slough National Wildlife Refuge. Additionally, we radio tagged 72 mallards, as mallards are among probably the most common waterfowl species at the wastewater treatment plant and are frequently involved in wildlife airstrikes at GFK. So all of this data is managed by Modus Wildlife Tracking System, which is a data server that helps manage this huge amount of automated radio telemetry data and transform it into a more easily digestible and user-friendly format. So these pictures are examples of the 2 designs of the radio tags that we used for the mallards last year. Both of these tags are super small, like 3 to 7 grams each, and they're solar powered life tags. So theoretically, they should work for the entire duration of the bird's life. And on the left, we have the CTT design, which included a 3D printed backpack to lift the tag out of the bird's feathers so the solar panel wasn't obstructed by anything. And on the right, we have the UND design, which did not include the 3D printed backpack. And this picture was just taken recently. This is one of our ducks that was actually found by a photographer at actually another wastewater treatment plant in Minnesota that has the CTT backpack tag on it. And I just wanted to include this because it's a beautiful picture and it also shows what these tags look like when the birds are actually in action. And then finally, this year we have a USDA National Wildlife Research Center drone project starting up this spring. So this is a collaborative UND, USDA, FAA research project funded by the FAA through the NWRC and UND. It'll go on for the next 2 years. So we'll start field work for it whenever the weather allows us to get out to the field this year, and we'll go through the fall of next year. And the overall purpose of this study is to determine the effectiveness of drones as a harassment tool within the context of airports and aviation safety. So we're going to be looking at things specifically like best management practices and species-specific applications of drones, as well as training requirements for biologists and assessing its usability as an added tool for current mitigation efforts, not only at GFK, but at airports across the country. And so with that, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the partnerships that have made all this possible. First and foremost, on behalf of Wildlife Services, I'd like to thank the City of Grand Forks for all of your support over the last several years. And as we start to look towards the future with these research projects, as well as the University of North Dakota, Grand Forks Air Force Base, Grand Forks International Airport, the FAA, the North Dakota, South Dakota Wildlife Services Program, and the Wildlife Services National Wildlife Research Center. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
All right, I got a couple questions for you, and I'll open it up. Is there any benefits to those minnows being in the wastewater treatment lagoons, or is there a way to mitigate that? That might remove, obviously, some more risk there. So I don't know if there's options.
Mayor Buczynski, I don't know that there's any benefit. We just know that they're present. And so that's a lot of the attractive, that's what's attracting the birds, right? Is having that food source available. It also shows that it's a healthy water system, but I don't know. We've talked a little bit about other mitigations, but we haven't talked about trying to reduce those minnows at this point.
Yeah, it would be hard because the ponds feed into the watershed, so it's not a truly closed system. Birds can also carry fish eggs on their feathers into other water sources. So even if you somehow manage to find a way to reduce the fish numbers that didn't impact the birds or didn't impact the watershed, I mean, it's an inevitability that there would just be more fish there again.
All right, this seems like a really fun job. Do you like
Thank
what you
you.
do?
Yes, a lot.
I guess my last question, you're not hiring an assistant by any chance?
You just missed the deadline.
All right. Questions for council?
Fantastic presentation.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
Legislative update.
Mayor Wojcinski and members of the city council, isn't Dorothy great, and also Melanie, and if we went back in time, think of all that we've done just at the wastewater treatment surrounding area to reduce bird impacts around the airport, and without what we've been doing with the city of Grand Forks and Dorothy and Melanie, we were the ones that really took that lead, so we should be very proud of what we've done and some of the great outcomes that are out there. So
Is this part of the Accelerate to Industry program with Dean Nelson?
not this, I don't
Not
think so,
this specifically.
not this, yeah.
So we have many things that we're doing.
Yeah, but anyways, I just want to give a shout out. I just want to give an update. We had a really great visit in Bismarck on Thursday, Friday last week. Thank you, Mayor Wojcinski led our community along with all of our public partners and our private partners. Councilmember Kabami was also able to join us last week on behalf of the city of Grand Forks. We had several meetings. I'm just going to go through them. On Thursday, we met with the Department of Commerce and talked about CTE centers. And you should know that, the governor has signed that Bank of North Dakota loan. So we get our $10 million match to move forward. So we are moving forward with the Career Impact Academy as we move forward. And as part of that, there was some discussion at the meeting about an inflationary increase. So right now, the number that's been thrown out there is about $40 million for CTE centers throughout the state of North Dakota. One of the great things that we did as a city of Grand Forks and Growth Fund is that we did purchase the former Holiday Inn site. That site is in along Highway 2 is along a census low and moderate income census tract. Therefore, there's some tax credits that are available for that. So not only was it a great infill site that we need to get cleaned up, but there's also some potential tax benefits that will help us provide some real investment into that facility. So regarding that. We talked about Grand Sky, and you should know without the state of North Dakota, Grand Sky would not exist the way it does. And so we should be really keenly aware of that. That is on federal properties. Therefore, we talk a lot about Highway 81 and special assessments. You can't special assess out there for. So what has happened with all the underground and pavement? The state of North Dakota has stepped up to put that infrastructure in there because, Northrop Grumman and other entities were not going to pay to put that infrastructure in there. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that we should, in this, as we go through the session, $22 million is set aside for infrastructure to further extend Grand Sky. To date, since 2013, $28 million has been put in by the state of North Dakota for infrastructure. We also talked about the test site, and we should be very proud of our test site. I think we were one of 6, and I think clearly we are the best test site across the United States of America. I think there's about $30 million that's set aside in this biennium to continue to operate the test site. The other thing we talked about, there's $2 million set aside right now for base retention efforts. So 500,000 of that would go to Grand Forks, 500,000 to Fargo, and then $1 million to Minot. We talked about Main Street Initiative and obviously Governor Burgum. That's been a real main issue of his. And we talked about all the great things that are going on in Grand Forks in the downtown. And we almost have $200 million of private investment that we've moved forward with in our downtown, which is quite incredible. I think we are the shining star, as Commerce said, about downtown development and what we've done. In addition to that, we talked about the $15 million that we've invested from DOT funds to partner with these private developments, whether that's in Demers, 3rd and 4th Street, that we really integrated quite well as we move forward. There was a lot of discussion about Accelerate Grand Forks, and as we know, we've really partnered well with the LIFT program. And so we've invested, 13 companies have received $9.9 million for the LIFT program, creating 96 jobs at an average salary of $86,000. And so again, we have been a shining star on that Accelerate program that we tied to the LIFT program, and we've done a lot of great things. We also briefed the Hive and kind of where we're at, and we want this to be a showcase not only for Grand Forks and our region, but the state of North Dakota as an accelerator that will focus on UAS and edge technology. So we talked about that as part of it. We also had the folks from the Children's Museum were there. Another initiative of Governor Burgum is quality of life investments. So Governor Burgum put in $15 million into his budget. That has been cut down to $25 million for partnered investments. And certainly the Children's Museum is looking for funding there. So there was a call that doing what we can in the second half of this session to increase that back to the 50 million, which would help the Children's Museum and other quality of life investments throughout the state of North Dakota. We talked about our egg park development and Epitome Energy, as well as our greenfield site that's along 81. And we are in conversations with Commerce regarding additional investments in the agribusiness sector as we move. So we did have some conversations about that. So as people come to the state of North Dakota, they're obviously pointing out Grand Forks is a great place to invest in agribusiness. We talked about the DOT, and we well know of the two important projects for us, our 42nd and Demers Underpass and the 47th Avenue Interchange. A lot of discussion about that. And hopefully by the spring, we'll have more information as we move through the environmental assessments. There was a lot of discussion about the egg park in the last mile initiative that the DOT has put together, and that's really going to be needed with Epitome Energy. So you look at where their location is, they're on township roads that are off of state highways, and so that really is intended to move forward the agribusinesses and find the last mile. In this case, we probably have last miles plural. We don't have a last mile, as we talked about that. The next meeting was with Department of Ag, and we had the honor to meet with Ag Commissioner Goring, and there's no bigger fan and champion of Grand Forks than Ag Commissioner Goring, and let us know that. He pointed out that as part of the Ag Commission, one of the little known things, but one of the largest things that he does is work on economic development projects. And he's been in conversations with, he said, at least a few agribusinesses, and he's pointed them to Grand Forks as a great place to invest in. He said more to come. Wasn't able to share, but he's in conversations, and he's hopeful that positive things are to come in that regards. He talked about some of the funding that he's able to do from a tax incentive perspective and also from an industrial perspective. The mayor asked him about some questions about natural gas, since he's on the Industrial Commission along with the Attorney General and Governor. And there's a new strategy to move forward with natural gas, and he's confident that we can move forward from west to east out of the Bakken. But as the mayor pointed out in the interim, we still want to move forward with the natural gas from east to west. So there was a discussion on that, and he's fully briefed on that. The last meeting we had on Thursday was the Chancellor's office, so we did get to meet with Dr. Hagrod, and that was a really good, if you ever get a chance to talk to Dr. Hagrod, he's very engaging, and so you could see there's a positive and strong relationship between he and Dr. Armacost. I think really of note is that there's a lot of discussion about that STEM building to replace Hislop and some of the math building and Abbott and along there. It looks like there's a 2 biennia strategy to move forward with that project. And so it's overall this between the state and local commitments, it's a $157 million development, and they split that over this upcoming biennium and thereafter. So there is a strategy that is going to get done, and certainly that's going to impact us on the feasibility study of our own quality of life regarding the Hislop pool. And so it sounds like there's a strategy to move forward with that. I want to talk about the reception, and the city of Grand Forks is a sponsor of the session. So the food that is sponsored by the city of Grand Forks, and I just want to let you know it was a very large crowd, well attended by North Dakota state officials, our legislators from our area, and legislators throughout the state of North Dakota. So we had a really great, robust crowd that night that really is supportive of the city of Grand Forks and what we do on a day-to-day basis. The next morning, we met with the North Dakota Department of Water Resources, and that's an important, one of our key assets that we've built over the last 20 years, our water treatment plants. And as you recall, that was a 50-50 cost share. So we said, thank you. And we weren't able to share and have a grand opening because we opened it during the pandemic. So we said a amount of thanks. And when they can come back here, we certainly will want to host them at that point in time. And we talked about the Red River Valley Water Supply Project. We talked about what we're working on with the South End Interior Flood Protection Master Planning. We are going to ask for a cost share on that. Certainly, we're going to get a 75-25 cost share on the Red River Valley Water Supply Project. We're working on the 25% of our local share that we certainly want as a Bank of North Dakota loan. at a 40-year 2% interest rate. So we talked about that. And we also talked about bringing that master plan and asking for a cost share on that. Let's move forward. We also did talk about the egg park and needing to help support Epitome Energy from a gray water and a water supply perspective. And in this case, we'll have to work with Agassiz Rural Water too. So we briefed them on all those sorts of things. We had a terrific meeting thereafter with the National Guard, and you should know this. I heard this from the National Guard. They are very appreciative of their great partnership with the city of Grand Forks, so you should know that. Number two, they have great relationship with the Grand Forks Air Force Base, and they appreciate both of those. And so there was a lot of positive discussion. They did say that they're transforming their operation from a counterinsurgency to looking at near-term competitors, and obviously those are China and Russia. So there's going to be a new strategy coming out that will impact the National Guard also, and impact our National Guard that we have here. Is that it's really involved in air defense and has been stationed in DC, I think several times at this point, protecting our nation's capital. So, but they just wanted to let you know that, number one, thanks for Grand Forks, all that we do to support the National Guard and as we move forward. Really some real positive news. They talked about some of the military friendly measures that we've helped support, from license reciprocity to income tax to healthcare. And they talked about that's really important to attract and retain National Guardsmen. And we got really good news from the Department of Emergency Services, and the mayor said that it was good because it gets asked this on the radio all the time. Number one, Vail Circle. They think we're going to get notified soon that we get the grant funding. And as you recall, that was about $8.6 million in grant funding for that project. The gentleman from DES said that's going to come soon. The other thing that Melanie's been working on it was that wastewater force main reliever up on the north end, and he's also said that's going to get funded too. And so he was the gentleman from DES was really engaging about mitigation, and really appreciated the applications that we put together, and asked us to put together more and more. So good news to come. I don't think he would have said that we're going to get it, but we've been waiting here for a couple of years on that. So we did encourage us that we're going to do that. Bank in North Dakota, we had a really terrific meeting. And again, they were really appreciative of some of the innovative strategies we've had with Grand Forks that they've really emulated and been able to partner with. So we talked about PACE and FlexPACE. We talked about the infrastructure revolving loan fund, and that's that loan fund where we have $15 million in loan, but we have $40 million cap, so that $25 million. Right now, we're earmarking for transportation projects like the underpass at 42nd and Demers, and some of the interchange components that we have to work on. So that was a very good meeting. And again, they thanked the city of Grand Forks for being the leader in the state of North Dakota. Finally, we met with the governor's office. Governor Bergen was not able to make it, but Jace Bueller, his chief of staff, was there. And then we were also able to meet with Lieutenant Governor Tammy Miller, and had a really great briefing on that. So all in all, I think lots of positive about all that's going on in Grand Forks, and really engaged conversation with all of our state partners. And you should know that. And I think everybody that was there was engaged, and as we always do when we leave town and when we're in town, try to make you proud and the citizens of Grand Forks proud of what we're doing here in the state of Grand Forks. So with that, I'd hand it over to John to kind of give you on tap what's going on this week for us.
So this week at the legislature, they jumping right into it. They started the second half last Wednesday. When I talked to you guys last week, they had some high-level discussions regarding water, and they had Department of Transportation. Their overall budget was on there. This week, already this morning, we submitted testimony last night, but this morning that snow removal grant bill, that if you're spending 150% and over your 5-year average, some state money available. I think that bill has gained a little more steam with the amount of snow that's been in the Bismarck and Jamestown area the past couple of weeks. So gotten a lot of attention. Should note, this week they're hearing a lot regarding the higher ed bill. That's a really big bill, and also a lot of talk regarding the water bill. That's going to be in committee multiple times this week and ongoing throughout probably the rest of the session. I don't expect any votes of any sort, if you will, until later in the session. And Mr. Dean, you're familiar with that one. There's lots of moving parts in that one. North Dakota PERS, the pension that the city of Grand Forks participates in. There are two bills that came out of the first half, one to kill the pension and one to save the pension. They're both being heard at the end of this week. House Bill 1040, which is the mechanism to kill the pension and move everyone to a defined contribution, is being heard in the Senate State and Local Government Committee on Thursday at 10:30 in the morning. We've already had some discussions talking with Maureen in Finance, Tangi in HR about how to proceed. We're looking forward to that bill. And then on Friday, Senate Bill 2239, which is the mechanism to save the pension, have a higher contribution from employers and employees, which we've been in support of in past, they just haven't done, which is why we're in this spot. That's going to be heard in the Government and Veteran Affairs Committee on the House side Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'll see what those committee hearings bring to us, what type of discussion. We'll pay attention to that. And with that, I'm open to any other questions or any comments regarding this week of the legislature.
Just,
Yes, Mr.
I think 2020 is gonna get heard on Thursday morning, and I don't know, Mayor, are you gonna be able to make that?
I'm not, so I was hoping to ask you offline, but if you wanna put on the spot now, can you make it out for that one in the house? I know Bernie Dardis and Tim.
And yeah, and I know you've been out there before, it's been very successful.
Yeah, I was trying to do that.
I'll have to look into
All
that.
written testimony, but won't be able to do it. Any other questions for John or?
And just one for you, Todd, with the Bank of North Dakota, that long-term 2% 40-year loan, does that look promising?
Yeah, Mayor Paczynski and Councilmember Rubin, we did ask, we asked Kelvin Hewlett, who's their kind of business development. They are aware that one bill, they took some funding away, but what they did say they were well aware, looking at a strategy, and it's probably going to require an appropriation to the Bank of North Dakota so that they can then finance some more, but they're aware of it and are working on a solution to that end.
Could that appropriation happen this biennium, or would it be a future?
No, he said it would actually working on that right now, I can speak, and they're likely looking at an additional appropriation to the Bank of North Dakota.
Because that's as critical as the other 2020 bill is for financing, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so if we could get on there to support that, I would assume.
Yeah, and my understanding was with Garrison staff and others is there is conversation, leading up to the Senate Bill 2020, not to talk about it at that hearing, but the committee's been well aware there's got to be another vehicle to help with our local finance side of it.
Yeah, and last week I went to Fargo when we had the Garrison Group and the cities, Fargo, Grand Forks and others were there. Very productive meeting about planning for this last half. So I'm assuming this is all going to align. So thanks.
All right, please.
On the additional inflationary dollars for the CTE centers, $40 million from the state. I'm assuming that's a loan.
Right now, it's planned to be a grant. Yeah, and what the request right now is, you remember the first 10 million, they're hoping that it can just be $40 million without a match required. Otherwise, we're going to have to go back. We're hesitating to go back to our private sector partners to ask for additional inflationary funds. So the hope right now is that it will not require a match.
So it's going to be doled out by percentages of how much they were already given.
Yeah, and I keep factor. What do you think our number is going to be?
Like 7 million.
So our share, for the record, be 4.5 of that 40. And then I think when I heard on this tax credit, I'm going to just give you a round number. I think it was around worth about $2 million worth. So if we were at 21 million, some of that's in kind, some of that was cash. But I think if we had to do the whole project, the whole CTE or CIA, I guess we're calling our Career Impact Academy. I think we were upwards of the high $20 million mark. And so we are trying to design and build it so that everything can get in there and without shaving it too much and reducing some of the programs that we really need in our community.
All right, thank you. Move on.
3.4, following from Women in Construction Week, March 5th through 11th.
All right, I think this is a new one. Women in Construction Week, March 5th to the 11th, 2023. Whereas Fargo Moorhead, North Dakota, Chapter 246 has distinguished itself for 45 years as the voice of women in construction in Grand Forks and surrounding areas. Whereas the work done by the Fargo Moorhead chapter has benefited Grand Forks and the surrounding areas through community development and educational programs. The construction company represented by the Fargo-Moorhead chapter has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation, and beautification projects, portion of skilled trade careers, and positive vision for the future. Now therefore, I, Brandon Bochinski, Mayor of Grand Forks, North Dakota, do hereby recognize the Fargo-Moorhead, North Dakota chapter number 246 and its many dedicated volunteers for its steadfast work on behalf and support of women in construction. Do proudly proclaim the week of March 5th to the 11th, 2023 as Women in Construction Week, and encourage our citizens to congratulate the organization on its many accomplishments. Hopefully we can add a Grand Forks chapter in the future, so we don't have to say that name so many times. All right, moving on to fourth public hearing and second reading of ordinances.
4.1 is the second reading of an ordinance to annex portions of parental land subdivisions in the city of Grand Forks. This is coming to you as a technical correction.
Okay, anybody here, we'll open the public hearing, anybody here to speak on item 4.1, that technical correction? All right, seeing none, the public hearing portion will be closed. We got a motion to approve. We have a second from Ms. Osowski. Motion from President Sandy, second from Ms. Osowski. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously.
Then 4.2, determination of protest or request to vacate a portion of 28th Avenue North within 363 subdivision.
All right, same thing. I'll open up the public hearing for item 4.2. Anybody here to speak on item 4.2 this evening? All right, seeing nobody, public hearing period will be closed. Open up for motions or comments by council. Got a motion to approve from Councilmember Weigel, second from President Sandy. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
4.3, determination of protest for project number 8464, or district number 763. That's paving and streetlights on 41st Avenue South Division, and project 8619.1, district 774.1, overlay. We have received no protests.
All right, so we need to open a public hearing on that still. So open the public hearing on 4.3. Protests have been delivered. All right, seeing none, all those in favor. Get a motion, sorry, well, let's slow it down a bit there. We'll close the public hearing. We got a motion to approve. We got a second. Motion President Sandy, second from Ms. Osowski. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. All right, we're on to 5, and that's action items. Staff and administration did not have any items they needed pulled for further, but we'll open up the council in a moment.
510.
510 will pull. Right, to grab the other items. Mr. Kavami, online, do you have any items you want to pull for the discussion this evening?
He, I believe, is currently speaking to the school board.
All right, so with that, we'll look to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, and 5.11. The motion approved by Vice President Weber. We have a second from Slunsky. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. So be on to 5.10.
Right, 5.10 is engineering agreement with project 8686 Phoenix Elementary School safety study.
All right, do you have some further comments, Ms. Osowski?
Yes, I am going to vote to approve this, but I want to make sure that, this is starting from last year, this is going to be the 3rd study that we've had in this area. And I want to just make sure that we come away with some ideas that we can actually implement. I also don't think that Reeves and 8th really have anything to do with school safety. And I really do think that we need, there are a bunch of schools in our school districts who I'm sure they all have safety concerns. And so I think we need to be just like really fiscally responsible when it comes to shelling out this kind of money for school safety, and also intersections that don't really pertain to the school. And was anybody able to talk to the school board if maybe they would help fund this?
Wojcicki, Councilperson Salsky, rest of the council. We did reach out. We haven't gotten a response back, but traditionally the school district doesn't participate in this level of the studies. We're hoping that you know, when we identify actionable items, that they're, you know, they'll be partners with us relative to the, if we need some property or some access or things like that to implement whatever the study comes in. You know, traditionally, that's where they come in and partner more so with the city.
Thank you. I motion approval.
Got a motion approved, we have a second, we have one from Ms. Lunskey, further comment, item 5.10. All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries unanimously. 6 information items, we have none, so move on to 7, approval of minutes and bills.
7.1 vendor list and engineer's estimate as attached.
We have a motion to pay the bills. Got a motion, we'll go with Weigel the motion and Wasowski the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries unanimously.
And 7.2 minutes from October 3rd, 17th, and 4th, and November 7th.
All right, we're selling to thank the finance team. I know you guys are catching up on those. And people really do appreciate that, getting forward done in this short time period. Really appreciate that. So want to say that first, and if we got a motion as is or any changes to the minutes, please.
As is.
As is, we got a motion to approve from Vice President Weather. We have a second from Mr. Bean. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. On to 8, city administrator comments, Mr. Freeland.
Sure. Yep, I have a handful of comments and some updates for you. At the next call meeting, there was a request. I'm not going to plan to put the Grand Forks Region EDC briefing on the next committee of the whole meeting, and then also a planning and zoning briefing. So Chief Lund would provide that EDC briefing, and then Mr. Brooks would provide that planning and zoning, just give you an overview and allow you to do some Q&A on that. So we'll plan to put that on the next committee of the whole meeting. Also, I asked Mr. Gosted regarding the development agreement and conversations that he's had with Mr. Rom representing Fufang USA, and ask him to provide you an update on where we're at in that regard.
Speaking minutes in the back. Had some discussions with Fufang's attorney regarding the termination of the development agreement, as well as the discussions the discussions went into disposition of the property. I expect to have further discussions with their attorney in the next several days. And I expect further updates as we progress on those discussions. So just an update that we've had those discussions with Fufang in the last several days. So be happy to answer any questions.
What do you mean disposition of the property?
What they may do with property. Yeah.
So at this point, the development agreement has not been terminated.
The notice of the termination notice hasn't been delivered at this point. As I was drafting, I got a phone call from our attorney and asked to have further discussion. So that's where we're at.
When do you think that'll be done, Mr. Costello?
That I don't know. I think we want to. My thought process is to explore the discussions with their attorney at this point and kind of see where things go from there.
Because that's the next step that
It
we
is.
kind of need to
Procedurally. Yep.
do. Okay, thank you.
One more item is that Marine Stores had sent out correspondence regarding, we did receive a petition for de-annexation in that Highway 81 area. So we'll review that and bring that back to City Council for your further review. I did also talk to Mr. Craig Spicer today too, and he let me know that that group up there along 81 have an attorney at this point, and so I've asked Mr. Gosted to follow up with that lawyer that was named, and also that firm, just to get some further correspondence. More to come on that. And I suspect Marine will start going through that petition and with the advice of Mr. Gosted on that, in that regard. I just want to point out as some key parts is that the bids on the water main that will serve the Highway 81 area, along with the greenfield out there that Mr. Gosted said with the Fufang USA, that parcel, that has been bid. We have received bids on that, though that is scheduled to come before the committee of whole next Monday. And I asked Mr. Grasser, the other part, that will serve not only the 81 area, but the greenfield is the sanitary sewer, not the industrial, but the sanitary for the domestic. And so the pump station, a force main, and I think the related collection system, I think those are anticipated to be open bids later this week. And so that would come to the community whole too, as we move forward. So our intent is to bring both of those bids forward. We'll have further conversation about the de-annexation. At this point in time, we'll see how the both bids come in. We'll have you review those. And then even if you move them forward to this city council at that point, and we're still working some details, we would, if the times aren't right to award the bids, we would ask you to postpone to a further city council meeting. So more to come on that, but a lot of things are coming together and decisions will need to be made, but we want to give you a heads up on kind of where we're at with those various things. So with that, Mayor, that's all that we have for this evening.
Mr. Phelan, we'll move on to 9, Mayor and council member comments. Mr. Weigel, any comments this evening?
Well, thank you, Mayor.
You, Ms. Osowski, any comments this evening?
Okay.
Mr. Ms. Lunsky, sorry. I'm assuming Mr. Cavani is still disposed of at the moment. So, Mr. Bean, any comments? All right, Vice President Weber.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, thank you, Norman, appreciate it.
Well, I don't want to wreck the streak there, so just stay warm out there and looking for a motion to adjourn. I'll move to 10. Got a motion to adjourn. Second, Mr. Osowski. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.